Hello, Silas here. I'm here with my friend Steven. Say what's up to the peoples.
Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well today.
So, guys, gals, and everything else in between, today we shall be reading this article and discussing this. We've been doing a series talking about Settle Him. It was Marry Him. Marry Him. What is this actual book called again?
Marry him. The case for settling for Mister Good Enough.
Yeah, so we're doing this series where on like the fifth part, we're going to record the fifth part after this. But something had come up with Steven. He posted this one thing on the social medias, and it's this article from the Daily Mail. And the links to this article will be somewhere you can find it. You can read along with us. We're just going to read it, or you can pause what this is, read it, see, come back and see if what we say during it is going to be something worthwhile. But we think it has something to do with this Marry Him video series that we're talking about, because this book is an excellent book, and I hope y'all check out that series as well, that points out a lot of things that Stephen and I had seen from a male's point of view when it comes to dating. And like, yeah, we also understand as males, we were single. We were both single when we started recording it. Stephen has found himself a pretty lady, just took her out for the birthday dinner yesterday. Was it yesterday?
It was Friday night, but I
Okay.
posted the photos. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yesterday or so. Yeah.
so that's going well, and they have a really good relationship, and it's based off of a lot of the things that we've seen about relationships. And from our estimation, we don't necessarily think that all of a sudden it's like, oh, men are from Mars and women are from Venus, or whatever that thing is, where there's this way we can't understand each other. It's a problem of people just not having the right amount of communication, having paralysis by options. You have so many options, apparently appearing like you have so many options when realistically you still have the same few people that can truly date you. Because yes, there might be thousands of people you can get access to online, maybe hundreds of people you can walk around. You may be able to fly to a different part of the world and meet somebody else. Go online. There's millions of people you can technically get in touch with on social medias or things like this. But when it comes down to it, there's still only one you. And if you are yourself, genuinely, you understand what you want, when you enter the dating marketplace, you can still have one you. If you're looking for just one person, that's all you have to find out of all those. So I think when it still comes down to it, there's really not that many people. Like, or what do you think? Like, you just nearly in a relationship, you found somebody out of the many, many people out there. What was your whole estimation? Like, are you surprised you found this person, or are you like, hey, this kind of makes sense?
See, I kind of have mixed feelings on this because I think I keep laughing at how things are going great with her, but we met off the bogus Facebook dating app, which is like for free, and there's issues with scammers and bots, but. I think what worked out is like we're similar in age. We both have similar um, ideas for where we want to go in life. Like we both want something serious. We both ultimately want marriage and children. I mean, again, our relationship is still early, but like we both know we ultimately want that. I think she's in a place where it's like again, and sort of in line with the message of that book, she's not settling, but she's not going to be ultra picky because she knows, okay, in a few years it's geriatric pregnancy. A few years after that, it's I probably won't be able to have kids. So it's like she's being very practical and like, okay, here's a guy who has things that to offer me, but at the same time treats me well, could be a good father and all this. It's I don't have to get some giga Chad who makes 6-7 figures a year or looks like Brad Pitt, blah blah blah. So she's more practical, and I think it's helping me a lot too because I'm also entering a place where financially I'm actually in the best place financially I've ever been in. So I'm reaching a point. I'm not quite where I want to be, but I'm reaching a point where if I had to support a child like in the near future, I probably could. And then I also think I'm more mature, more confident. So I think things are lining up a lot better than if I had tried to get married in the past.
Yeah, and this is one thing that we've discussed where there is a difference there where, of course, if you do happen to have a child at a younger age and you are of a certain mindset, you're going to make different decisions and also now start planning towards that. But then also, if your key is, and eventually what I want to do in relationships is have a child, then I don't understand why some people spend years and years and years dating just to date or just to hook up, just to have other kind of things. And then they get to later in the years and then they say, especially when it comes to women, then they say at that point, okay, now we want to all of a sudden have a serious relationship and have kids. And then they wonder, where have all the good men gone? And that's the name of this article. It says, where have all the good men gone? These sassy, sophisticated, solvent women say they're struggling to find their other halves that can measure up. Now, I
Yep.
think even just from this, what we'll do it, I'll read some parts of it and then we'll stop and take a break because Stephen posted this on his profile, and he posted this as well, which is, I think Stephen has become really good at posting some of these, and he says certain things in the comment section that really draw some interaction. And he posted this, which said, "As two friends often say, if you find yourself asking, where have all the good men gone? The answer is they saw you coming." So, so I mean, that's a bit of, I can see how that can trigger certain people, but at the same point, let's just discuss just this title itself. And y'all just think about the title. Have you seen some things already in this title? And I'll put this up on the screen as well. And it's going to be pictures of the women who were with the post. And that's there's going to be a Lucy who's 46, Julia who's 54, Leslie who's 52, Laura who is 42, and Jane who is 48, who looks like she was photoshopped into that because I don't think she's that much smaller than the rest of the people. So yeah, so just already from that, what are some of the things you're seeing that already just that you've these are the kind of things where we don't want to judge a book by cover. We've done a couple of ones where we actually read articles and study it and break it down so y'all can actually see the context of it. And I think a lot of the people who commented, who were commenting more on what Stephen had said in his comment, didn't even read the title of the article really, let alone actually go to the article. But so we want to give it. But what do you see just from that title already, Stephen? There's some things in here that already.
Well, it's obviously a triple alliteration: sassy, sophisticated, solvent. Trying to sound catchy. Sassy. I think I wrote in the comments or someone did. Sassy is often code word for difficult. It's just trying to be spun in a positive light. Sophisticated, of course, is relevant. Solvent, I was saying, well, that's a good thing that you have money, but at the same time, it's like I wouldn't date someone who's massively in debt or broke all the time because it's like you're probably just looking for a guy who's going to take care of you financially, then just blow my money. So what's the point? And in the headline, five single women, like, again, okay, fair enough, but then it talks about midlife daters, and I think the theme of this article illustrates a problem in the modern culture. It's that women have sort of been conditioned to think that men want what they want. So the idea of the whole boss babe, boss bitch thing, whatever, of, oh, I'm going to go out, become successful, make money, then I'll be an attractive partner, when they don't realize that men and women aren't the same and that we're often not looking for that. I mean, there are exceptions, obviously, but as a general trend, that's not what they're looking for. So what happens is these women put their career 100% of the way. And this came up in the comments. Oh, men focus on their careers. But again, it's like, we're men, we're different. It's like, men, it's been shown, are willing to date, marry, sleep down. Women want a guy who's on their level or up. So the problem is these women work really hard, make all this money, and then they want a guy who's even higher. But at the same time, add on that they're getting older and men who want a family. Well, that's going to rule out a certain percentage of men. And I think these women just sit here befuddled because they're wondering, why am I this age and I haven't found a good guy? But it's like, if you're just projecting what you want in a man outward, it's like men are not going to necessarily want the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And to begin with, you got to understand that we are not saying it's bad to have standards. People have standards. We're saying you should have standards. In fact, if you don't have standards, chances are you won't find somebody who's actually going to treat you in a certain way. Because if you're just willing to take anyone, somebody who's just willing for anything will come and grab you and see that in you. And that's what raises the chance of somebody taking advantage of you if you don't actually have standards. But even with this, they saying measure up. See, five single women share why they struggle to find men worth dating. See this thing, worth dating. First of all, what's so important? What is the dating for? What is the dating leading up to? If it's just people to date, you can find somebody. There's almost no incel, involuntarily celibate women. If you just want to have intercourse, you can find someone to do that. But I think now to be involuntarily single, I think there's people who have that issue. And I think that's one of the key things we've been pointing out, especially in the Marry Him book, in the Marry Him book discussion, is women in general, their issue is more involuntarily finding someone like incel. That whole idea with men is a man wants to have intercourse with women that he finds attractive and he can't find somebody to have intercourse with them. So he's involuntarily celibate. He's constantly trying, and not doing that. I think any woman in pretty much any state, if they wanted to find somebody to have intercourse with who's even just mildly attractive to them, they can find that person. But if they want somebody to dedicate themselves to them, especially specifically a monogamous pair bonded kind of relationship, that situation is a lot harder for women, especially when they get older. And that's why you get some people to be involuntarily single. So insims, I think this is a thing that I've noticed out there. So worth dating. So they personally are saying we have standards of being worthwhile. Yeah. And that's positive. But I say if you have three things that you say these are three things that somebody has to have for me to date them, then you should be allowing to expect the person who
Yeah.
you potentially will date also has three things that you have to actually match. If you have five where two are a must, one is kind of then the other ones can be changed. Also expect that from your partner. I'm not even dictating what those things must be. They don't even have to be the same things. But if you have a certain number, allow or expect everybody else to have those certain numbers at least, and then match those. And once you play off of that, I don't think you can necessarily be disappointed. Because here it also says one dating coach says that there are 7 women for every man aged 40 to 55. That's 7 single women. I think that's what they're saying. I mean,
Well,
seven women, single women for man aged. That's. I don't necessarily understand how that math would work.
Well, I was going to add too. It's sort of like what I said in the last video we did on Marry Him, where I said like, you don't walk into a job. Why should we hire you? I just want the salary. Well, yeah, everyone wants the money. The question is, what are you doing to justify the salary? If you're going to say I deserve these men, or and then you can flip it the other way too. If you're going to say I deserve these women, you have to come up with a list of things of value that you're adding in exchange for value. If it's like, someone I know and she's not the only one. Oh, I just want a rich guy to let me sit at home and spend his money. It's like that doesn't really sound like a good deal for him, especially if he has tons of options. And it's like if you can't give a justification for that, I mean, what's the point?
Yeah, and that's the key to say, like, what your standards. And some people were talking about some accusations that Steve in particular got me kind of in a sense to actually decide to actually engage with some of these, and I think why we're doing this discussion is because there's just some unfair things that are being thrown out to Steven for saying this. As Steven has mentioned, he has found somebody that is in his age. It's like in the 30s, lower 30s. So but
Yeah.
so he's not like, oh, he's now doing well. He's making the most money that he's had. And he's like, oh, now I'm going to go and find some 20-year-old because when he was 20, the women he was attracted to at that time were not interested in him. So now he's like, oh, I'm going to go back and actually get that. He's not doing that. He
No.
actually found somebody who was around his age group. I'm close to my mom. I'm close to my sister. She's coming to visit from Europe with their kids. It's going to be awesome. Coming for like a month. So most of my best friends have been women. I was actually what was it called, a groom, no, a bride's groom because it was one of my best friends just recently got married. In part, I was talking to her about like she met somebody also on OkCupid. So you these online things you can find them, and was giving her suggestions like, yeah, you should be honest with him about this. You should talk about this. I maintained the relationship during that whole time. Since I was in high school, many of my friends, good friends, have been women, have been girls, have been female. So this whole idea that we hate women, we're being accused of that when we're talking about no, this is just the way the sexual marketplace value is. And
Yeah.
I was just like, so I just pointed out like people are saying it's disgusting. The sexual marketplace value. Can you explain just before we get into this, what is your general definition of SMV? If no one has heard of sexual marketplace value, what would you define it as?
Well, I think the name is fairly self-explanatory, but I would say what you bring to dating and relationships. And this is where my issue was with these women is that I was saying, nobody is saying women get older, they suddenly become worthless. Like you, I'm close with my mother. I was close with one of my grandmothers. My aunt, you can probably see her commenting on my posts a lot. Like I definitely
Yeah.
have older female relatives and friends that I've looked up to. But the point is, if the question is, what do you bring to dating and relationships? And I was thinking about this with like if my mother, has been very valuable in my life, but if my dad were to drop dead suddenly or divorce her and she were to date again, let's be real, she would not have the same options she had 40 years ago because it's
Yeah.
okay, you're in your 60s, you had multiple kids, so as far as dating and relationships, she's going to bring a lot less to the table. Now, is it possible that she could meet another retiree who just wants a companion? Sure, but the odds are she's not going to have the same options. Whereas a young, thin, pretty woman, yeah, she's going to have a lot of options, and that's kind of where these women were getting annoyed. I'm not saying like because one of them, like one of the women who commented, she was married and had kids, and she posed pictures with her kids. I'm sure she and her kids are close. All this, like, she's valuable in someone else's life as well. But the point is, if she goes out and dates, she's not going to have the same opportunities she did 20 years ago. It doesn't mean she's inferior. She just doesn't have the same opportunities. And but the point is the sexual market value is different for men and women. I mean, it's been shown men are visually stimulated, men want youth, fertility, all that. So it's like men are going to go generally for younger, prettier women. Women are attracted to resources. So women are going to want men that have a career, men that are going somewhere, all this. And some people are saying like, oh, you're acting like dating is based solely on this. And I was like, I don't believe dating is solely based on this, but I do think it plays a part. Like if you ask most women, are you going to go for a middle class, upper middle class guy or a broke guy? Most are going to say the former. You ask men, a less or more attractive woman, they're going to go for more. Broadly speaking, these things play out. Again, within certain parameters. Again, there are exceptions here and there, but a lot of these are fetishes or other circumstances, and it's like the exceptions can't be held up as the norm. Yeah.
Yeah, and before we get into the article, this is something that I thought of, and this is something you got to remember as we're reading through this article. It speaks of women who think men are not measuring up. So if a woman is interested in X sort of relationship, and this is something we've talked about in the Marry Him thing, I think that Marry Him book is facing for people. If you don't mind being single, if you want to be polyamorous, if you want to be like in the Jada Pinkett Will Smith sort of relationship where you can have entanglements with your child's friends and all these kind of things and be open about this and that, have at it. Then a different sort of dating is out there. There's going to be a different sort of marketplace in there. But even in that sense, if you are just doing it just for just hookups, then there's still a sexual quotient in there. If sexuality is part of the relationship you're looking for, then sexual marketplace value will count. If it's just attractiveness, physical attractiveness, that's one thing. If it's now you want to actually have reproduction with the person that you pick, where you get to a situation where you say, if I'm going to spend time married to somebody, I like that person enough to want them to be also the genetics that contribute to my child. I want them to be the primary person helping raise my child. This is something both females and males want. So a man would be like, yes, this woman is amazing. She seems nurturing. She seems to really care about things. Why would you want to have that person and then have somebody else raise your kids? For many men, they think this is the one of the top women in my life. This is one of the best people I've met ever. Who else would I want to be spending majority of the time with my children?
Yeah.
That's a thought that they have in their mind. So women also have that. They say, if this is the guy that's there. So these are some of the points that I said. So if a woman is coming in, and is it disgusting if a woman's sexual marketplace value thoughts, if she's thinking, I want a man who can provide the genetic aspect to have a child, to make me be with child, and me to raise their child. If they thought of these things, if they picked this, if they consider these things valuable, a healthier male without known or possible fertility issues, a male that earns more than average or more than those below average earning, like in the area that they're in, if they consider the above average as more valuable as below average, as you said, then a male that's have displayed the ability to maintain steady employment, preferably one that can support her and the children, should she decide to or not have to or not be able to work anymore once she's a mother. And this is something that's been shown where in general, even if both couples or both people are working, it turns out that men seem to work more once they actually have fathered a child, and women choose to work less. This is just
Yeah.
something that's part of what destroys that whole idea of the gender pay gap and things like that. Because when you look at single men, single women in their 20s, it's pretty much around the same when you're talking about office type of jobs, when it's not physicality is actually used in there. You can't compare a 25-year-old basketball player, male basketball player versus a 25-year-old female basketball player, because even though women just don't watch females. Anyway, so there's some different things in there. But if it's just a 25-year-old female accountant versus a 25-year-old male accountant that graduated from the same college and they're employed in the same city,
Yeah.
in those cases, actually the women tend to actually even earn a little more than the men when you're talking about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, a male who has shown the ability to be dedicated to something they chose to do over those who jumped around to multiple things, and prefers single males with no children that would be able to give them and the kids any limited time and attention that we all have over married men with one or more children. So these are the considerations that an average female will have of an average male in the sexual marketplace value if they are interested in having kids with that man. If it's a situation where they don't care about kids, SMV might come in handy if they're considering just having sex. But if it's companionship and all these other things, they have friends for these things that normally give those things in there. So I don't. So that's something that I think to keep in mind when we talk about sexual marketplace value versus what these women are talking about in this article. I don't know if you have any other thoughts before we get into
No,
reading.
I think some of this stuff is going to be elaborated on as the article is read. So I figured you could just start, and I'll you can take a break, and I'll comment accordingly. Sure.
Okay, so here we go. So at 48, Julie Townsend is beautiful, independent, and single. She keeps fit, takes care of her appearance, and is looking for a man who is active, in good shape, articulate, and emotionally open. Given her good looks and vivacious nature, eligible suitors must surely be beating a path to her door. Yet, as Jane from Sheffield explains, it's been a struggle. The men out there are delusional. I went out with a guy who lied about his age, said he was 47 when he was 50, who then had the gall to tell me he wanted younger women so he could, as he put it, could breed. After my divorce, I gave up my prime dating years to raise my two girls, expecting that when they left home, I'd have time left. But there had been a shift. No, but there has been a shift, and now the men aren't there. Where I live, it's hard to find somebody cultured unless they're eating yogurt, and men my age all seem to be, well, more than a little overweight. Okay, what do you think about that?
All right. I mean, there's a few a few issues right away. It's like, okay, it's good that you're fit, you take care of your appearance, all this, and it's like they must be beating a path through your door. Okay, but you're 48. There's even a study showing what men want women on average 18 to 23. That's the preferred group. It's like, well, why is that? It's like men value youth, fertility, and looks. Again, you can get mad at me for saying this, but that's how it is. And two, it's like again, talking about raise about now, I wouldn't have said it the way this guy did. Oh, I want a young woman so I could breed. I mean, that's kind of crude, but the point overall is still true because it's like, and I explain this to like other female friends that are about my age. It's like if you say you don't want kids, you're immediately shutting out a certain percentage of guys because they're thinking many of them are thinking about starting a family. I have that concern as well. And if the guy has money and options, he's probably going to go for younger, prettier women. If he's going for women your age, it's because he wants to start a family with you. And the older you get, there's going to be a shorter and a smaller and smaller window in which you can have kids. If you're older and you've already either had kids, like in her case, or you don't want kids, it's like, yeah, I'm not saying the situation's hopeless. You could find a guy who's a companion and all that, but at the same time, it's going to shut out a certain percentage of men that want kids. Whereas if this woman looked, great when she was 20 something, yeah, I'm sure lots of guys were looking to get with her because in addition to looks, it's also young and fertile. And then you have that bigger window in which you can have kids. So if you want to have 4 or 5, 6 kids, whatever, there would be that long window to do it. Whereas these women in their 30s, it's like, okay, maybe 2 or 3, which, for me, I mean, I think I would have max 2 or 3 kids. So it's fine by me. But if you want to have like a really big family, it's, that's going to be tougher. And the other thing too, yeah, again, I mean, it's a double standard. I mean, even older men want younger women. Again, you can complain it's unfair or whatever, but that's biology. And then, let's see what else here. Yeah, a lot of
I
men
think a key
are
part. Go
well,
ahead.
a lot of older men are overweight. I get that, and I was talking to my friend who's a little younger than me about this recently. As we get older, it is harder to stay in shape. I'm actually probably going to rejoin my local gym soon because I've been putting on a little weight lately too. But that's also just reality. It's harder to lose weight. Like I was saying to my friend, like I used to feel like I could inhale food and like, I would barely gain any weight. Now it's like I have like one like entree and I'm full for the rest of the day. So it's like it's just a reality as people get older. You just have to deal with it. I mean, men and
Yeah.
women both. Yeah.
I think another key thing here is they don't really seem to state what are they looking for in a relationship. What sort of relationship they're looking. What is the point of the eventual relationship? I think with her being 48, of course she has kids already, but also in this case, I think she's intelligent enough to know that at 48 she's not attempting to have children again. That's why
No.
when he says he's looking for
Yeah.
younger women, whether it's could breed, whether he said it literally like that, we have her word. I'm not going to doubt her word. I understand people could say they might
Yeah.
be saying in jest. You could be, there's crass people out there as well, but that is still a consideration. A man who is 50 might be able to say this. Now, when they talk about this age thing, um, I personally have. There's a reason makeup is called makeup. It's
Yeah.
made up. When something
Yeah.
is made up, if I make something, it's a made up age. His age of 47 was made up because it's not his accurate age. Just like these women are wearing makeup that hides their actual age. They're not just going to walk around without makeup. So just in general, gals, females, metrosexuals, people out there, wherever is used, guys, gals, and everyone else in between who's using makeup. If you use makeup, you are using some level of subterfuge already. So I'm not saying lying is good, but makeup is a form of lying. So if you're already lying, you're wearing heels, you're not that tall, you're wearing a push-up bra, that's not what your bra looks like. You might be wearing some Spanx or something like that. That's not it. Outside of actual workout, you may have done some cosmetic surgery. All these things, those are augmentations of your physical self. That's not how you actually look.
Yeah.
So if somebody is hiding that, and very few people put on makeup with the mental intention to be like, I'm hoping to look older. I guess when you're younger, maybe when you're trying to sneak into a club and you're in
Yeah,
high school
yeah,
or something, maybe you'll put on some makeup to look like you're in your like 20s or something like that. But very few women in their 30s will be like, let me put on makeup to make myself look like I'm 50. That doesn't happen. It's women who are 35 putting on makeup to hopefully look like that happens a lot more. So I miss me with this whole he lied about three years of things. Like I know it's not a good thing to enter a relationship with lies, but that seems to be. I think women in general are dyeing their hair certain colors, had to get the
yeah.
grays out there, Botox. Those kind of things are not things to make you seem your age. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's funny because like with my girl, she dyes her hair, but like she just prefers that color. But it's like I know that, and she tells me, and but she'll also ask me like, should I cut my hair shorter? And I'll be like, no, I don't like shorter haired women. She's like, okay, I'll keep it as like so things like that. So like there is some feedback from me, but at the same time, like if she prefers her own hair to be that color, I'm gonna be like,
Yeah.
you're right. And then she was talking about dyeing her hair a wild color, and I was like, don't do that. And I told her what aposematism is and all this, and I told her about some of the women we know. I was like, no, that was like it's nature's way of saying dangerous. Stay away.
Yeah, but since you know her already, it could be interesting.
Yeah.
I even back in college and high school, I used to bleach my hair sometimes and things like that.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. I like that whole testing out different things. So with that one, it's kind of more like a person to person basis. But there is a general thing where you take signs and there's generalizations you take, and in general, certain people who have certain behaviors and appearances do have certain personalities where it's a flag, it's a warning sign. It might not be a flag,
Yeah.
but it's a warning sign. It's like there's something flapping there where behind their back, maybe they're holding a flag, maybe they're just holding like a napkin, or it could be something else, but it's a question mark. But I think once you found the person, it could be interesting to try different things. Now, of course, also here the good shape thing. Is this a fat shaming thing? Are these people not about health at every size? We're not a health at every size people. Stephen has talked about getting in better shape. I do like a day, like almost day, like every 3 days. I take like a day off, 3 days, day off, to do these routines for like 30 to 45 minute routine and apply metrics at home. I'm a recovering obese person, still have a lot of way to go. I do understand there is an aspect in there, and that's one thing that at
Yeah.
least I appreciate with these ladies. They're being realistic. They understand fitness is a key thing. They have done the effort to keep themselves fit. And yes, in general, these ladies seem to be more fit than even your average 20-year-old.
Yeah.
Physically fit, just physically fit of what they are at that time. But
Yeah.
that's not the only thing that matters. But it's a value added thing that at least understand that yes, we're older, but we can still do these things. And if these older women with their achievements being solvent can achieve this, I think it's something that younger women can look at also and say, like, okay, what's your excuse of being younger and fitter and with more energy and time and things like that?
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Okay, so more of the reading. Okay, having been matchmaking single men and women for Femmales, is that with this site? Yeah, I think it's with okay, for Femmales blind date column for the past 6 months. I'd like to say Jane's experiences are the exception. But what has struck me is just how many attractive women apply who seem to have so much going for them. Okay, so is this a person who wrote it? Yeah, this is a person who's writing and
Yeah.
saying that. Okay. Um, and they say they are in great physical shape, living full and interesting lives, yet finding suitable men for them to date seems to be a heroic challenge. This has left me wondering why a generation of single, sexy, solvent women just can't find love. What immediately strikes female and midlife daters, of whom I am one, returning to the dating scene later in life after marriage or long term relationship, is the lack of single men. According to Joe Hemmings, a behavioral psychologist and dating coach, there are an estimated 7 new women for every man on the dating scene in the 40 and 55 age group. So availability is clearly a big issue. So what do you think about that right there?
Well, again, it's the same problem I laid out at the beginning. It's they're projecting what they want in men outward, like, oh, I'm making good money, I'm in good shape, all this. Why am I not getting all these men? When it's like men don't want the same things that you want. That's all I take from this. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
in addition here, because those numbers seem kind of
Yeah.
skewed for me.
Yeah.
They're saying 7 women for 7 new women for every man on the dating scene. So this is the thing. I know men die 5 years on average earlier than women,
Yep.
but in developed countries, which is the best, in the United Kingdom, I think that age is more like 65 to 70, not not 40 to 45. So the men are alive. And if there's single women, with some of these women, as we'll see, they were divorced or they actually had kids and things like this. So it's not necessarily that these men are all married or something. In some cases, I think the older men who might be in that 40 to 45 age range are just not in the dating market. They've just
Yeah.
decided we're not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
We had this first relationship. I already have a few kids with somebody. Maybe I'm still paying alimony or something, or maybe they're just raised them. Now they're just focused on their own lives and these other things.
Yeah.
But these women seem to be in the market to do this. So I don't know if you have some thoughts on this, or y'all listening out there, if you can give me some ideas and thoughts. Why do you think it seems that maybe women in a certain age group might be more interested in finding somebody versus the men? And of course, we'll see later on here, maybe they're talking about the men are just sleeping around with younger people, and they could be something like that too. But if that is your mentality, and they say, okay, it's unfair that men, when they're older, men are not choosing to settle with relationships with people, women their age. When they were younger, were they saying it's unfair for the younger men that younger women are interested in sleeping or having relations with older men instead of having relations with people their age? I don't think these women were thinking that at the younger age.
No,
I've heard very few women say that.
no, and again, it's not these women don't have value, period. It's just your sexual market value is different, men versus women at different ages and different circumstances. Nobody's saying these women are inferior and don't deserve to be happy. That's not what we're saying. We're just saying, for given what men want, and I don't hear a lot of emphasis on what men want these days. I only hear what women want. It's like, yeah, you're sort of blind to the fact that men are not looking to get with middle-aged women typically. And it's like, you can get mad at me for pointing this out, get mad at Silas, but it's like, biology is not going to change just because you feel triggered by it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to the next reading here. So it says, I've had clients come to me wondering, am I asking too much to find an attractive, independent, solvent guy my age, he says. And she explains part of the issue is that when divorce strikes, men and women react in different ways. Men's relationships frequently overlap. They won't leave one partner until they find another. So they are never really single. By contrast, women take longer to recover from breakup, and they step out of the dating ring completely, sometimes for many years, to rebuild their lives or to focus on bringing up children. We got to pause here and talk this. This is something
Yeah.
that came to mind. I mean, you might have thought of it too, because this is a one of those kind of disgusting things that to
Yeah.
me is just yeah. Go ahead.
Well, because what I was gonna say is they always make it sound like men are doing all the cheating when there's a study showing that men and women admit to doing the same level of cheating. Like I think it's like, what is it, like 23% of one, 26% of the other, men versus women each say they cheat. Because the thing is, as I'm sure you're aware, divorces 75, 80%, depending on demographic, are
Yeah,
initiated by women. And when you bring this up, it always is like, well, what did the men do to make this happen? It's like, but what when the women are interviewed, it's not he cheated on me, it's not, he spent all the money, whatever. It's, oh, I wasn't satisfied, or just some vague thing like there were problems in the relationship. It's like, well, you chose to divorce him. I mean, that was on you. So if you feel bad after, I mean, again, the odds are if you were a woman, you initiated it. And then what was the other thing I was going to say here about, yeah, finding one partner? That's where I thought of the cheating statistic. It's like they make it sound like, oh, it's just men looking for a better deal, when it's like, no, it's been women will admit to cheating just as much. So it's like, again, it's just, but this shows the gynocentrism, the idea that if the woman divorces or is upset, it's, oh, well, what did the man do to make it happen? But then if the man's upset, oh, well, who hurt you? This is misogyny. It's like, it's safe to say both can be at fault depending on the time and circumstances. Yeah.
because they're talking about this. If it's 75% of the women choosing, and even if it's like half of those, it's
Yeah.
they're choosing out of other things. And then it's not that half of those 75% of the women initiating divorce found their man with cheating with somebody else and then decided, I'm going to get a divorce. So
Yeah.
that man went and stayed with the other person that he was
Yeah.
with. No, many of these men have the women drop the divorce on them, and they're just out of the blue, or they ignored the signs that the thing was falling apart. And they're also kind of lost in that situation. And then there's also just look at the actual percentage of men that commit suicide after divorces.
Yeah.
There's a lot higher range of men committing suicide, and you have the family courts giving like 90% of paternity to the
Yeah.
women. So you have the situation where this man has been working; these kids are a part of his life. Sometimes the woman's like, you're not going to be around my kids." Sometimes that woman will find some other man because of some of the child support things in the United States, American places like that. If they actually end up dating or cohabitating or like starting to actually have a permanent relationship with another man, then they lose some of the child support and things like this, or they lose certain levels of maybe welfare. So you'll
Yeah.
have these women kind of just get a man in there that's just at the place, not completely in there, and then the other man knows about this. The amount of stress that goes on for men
Yeah.
when it comes to divorces is seem to just like brushed off you. Yes, this is the United Kingdom, so you might say some of these things are different, but I don't think it's too different. Being a relatively close, it's an Anglosphere country, first
Yeah.
world Western sort of thing. So it's not entirely different than the United States of America. So this whole idea that, oh, they're never really single. When are they talking about they're never really single? They might never be single. They might never be single because they're not considered single anymore. They're not like single and willing to mingle. They're just like, I'm not even in the market anymore. I'm
Yeah.
taking myself out of this market. So they somebody who's not in the market is also not single. It's not up to be drafted. If you're not, okay, it's like an NFL team is picking players or basketball team is drafting players, and they say, oh, it's hard to find these people. They don't consider me to be a single or a potential person because I'm just not in the draft. I'm not draftable. So many men just take themselves out of the whole like dating pool, and it's just ridiculous to them say, oh, like no, it's the women who take this so hard. Really, 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 Queen? like, come on.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to the meeting. When they return to dating, it's really hard for them, says Joe. There aren't as many men because they have a wider pool. Men realize quickly that there are far fewer of them than there are women of a similar age. Then they then date much younger women, creating a huge void in the market. Traditionally, women go for men who are their age or slightly older. So they have, so they're left wondering, where have all the good men gone, or where have all the men gone? At least here they never dropped the good. They just said, where have all the men gone?
Yeah.
When Joe coaches women on dating, she tells them to accept the reality. It's just the fact that there is a lack of available decent men, she says. It's tough when you're looking for love. You have to realize that it's not about you. It's just a numbers game. But the numbers don't tell the whole story. Men indoctrinated over generations to pursue younger women are instinctively reluctant to consider those of a similar age or their own, even those who look youthful and attractive. Okay, so like this is two more sentences and then we can talk. Like is I mean, it's just, it is something I regularly notice when I set up dates. Men need to open their eyes to the amazing women in their own age bracket. Okay.
Okay, okay. And that last sentence pisses me off because that would be like me if I were to say, well, women shouldn't only go for giga chads. They should be open to dating broke, obese guys, whatever. Would anyone be rushing to agree with me, men included? No. It's like,
Especially when you're
yeah,
talking about some of the heavier, younger women
yeah,
who are like, yeah, she's heavier, she's younger, but she'll be like, I demand a fitter man who's tall.
yeah,
They could be somebody could be like 5'2", 300 pounds, rather large, just not really doing too much, student debt, and she'll be like, no, I want a tall guy who's doing well, who treats me like a queen. What are you going to do for this person? No, I'm me. Like I
yeah.
love myself, health at every size. But do you mind dating somebody who's also in your sort of like financial bracket? Maybe if you're making 20,000, 25,000, would you date a male that age? Would you date a male of a similar like body fat percentage as you do? No, most of these women won't say that. But then if you say young women, young obese women with student debt need to open up their eyes to the amazing young obese men with student debt in their bracket. I don't think that would be a statement. That would be a
No,
sort of article that you would state to women.
no. And like I said, I don't think men would agree with that either. Like, if there were guys like that, I wouldn't be saying these guys are great catches. Why are you passing them up? It's no, these
Mhm.
men have to get in better shape and get their financial act together.
That is another thing. Here they're talking about that men are indoctrinated to look for younger. There's a biology aspect that we've talked about to that
Yeah,
already, and even somebody with like a human behavioral psychologist, they should understand it's not necessarily just passing this. There's a biological aspect of that if you are interested in reproduction, and that is a key part of what marriage is. And I know we've come into a time where there's different sorts of relationships and different sorts of organizations, and I think we're feeling that out where there needs to be more openness. And I think the West still is the place where it's still the best and most open to these different forms of relationships. You don't really have to have this one structure. If you're raised in a traditional African tribal place, there's 2 or 3 ways you can actually have a relationship. You're raised in like Saudi Arabia, 2 or 3 ways you can have a relationship. If you're raised in China, even somewhere like that, there's 2 or 3 ways. But in America, you can still feel these out. It might not exactly be someone that fits your thing, but if you want to do this, you want to do that, if you want to do this in the past, there's still chances to do this. But this whole idea that it's indoctrinated into them, no. This is just what people are looking for if they're looking for a certain level of things. That's just some of the considerations that they'll have.
And that was the issue I had in that thread too, where this one woman is like, this is degrading or whatever. I'm like, you can feel degraded by this, but like, you're not going to re-engineer biology to fit what you want to be true. Sorry. It's like I mean, I'm 5'9". I can complain, oh, it's unfair that women prefer guys that are 6 feet tall, but it's like, I just have to work to become a better guy to be more valuable in other ways. It's like, I can't re-engineer women's desires to want a guy who's more average height. I mean, it's just how, yeah.
And it's not even just women, it's not even just men, not even just relationships. It's what is the X that you're looking for. If you're looking for X from something, if somebody's like, I'm looking for somebody to design something for me, they don't look at someone like Shaq and say, oh, let's Shaq design for me because he's great at basketball. I'll have him design this like thing for me. I'll have him do this illustration for me. Y'all need illustrations? Hit your boy up because I could do illustrations. I could do things like that. So if it comes to that, somebody wants an illustration. They look at me, look at what Shaq can do. Maybe Shaq could really draw it. I just started out. I'm just kind of making fun of Shaq. But if they ask the two of us, chances are they'll pick me because they're looking for X out of our relating to each other. Now, if somebody's like, if I say like, okay, back when I was young, at the same age as Shaq, I could squat more than he can. I was never really that good at basketball, but I could shoot better than he can free throws. So how come I didn't get recruited to the Orlando Magic? And then how come I didn't get paid millions of dollars? How come I'm not on TNT, even though I could squat more than Shaq and I could shoot better than him? Well, Shaq is 7'2". So, so I mean, if the X that a basketball player is, that a basketball team is looking for is the ability to play basketball, then Shaq is going to be much more desirable than 99.9% of the people in the world. But if somebody's just looking for somebody to just draw something for them, I'll probably be more desirable than people. If you're just looking for a different level of companionship, then me and Shaq might have the same kind of competitive aspect. Shaq probably might be funnier than me. He's a funny ass dude. So he might be funny. If you're looking for someone to dance, you probably go Shaq. He's got some moves out there, things like that. But there's those things. If you're looking for X, Y, Z, then you're going to judge on these other things. If you're looking for SMV, you're going to judge off of SMV. So if sexual aspect is part of it, sexual marketplace value is going to be in there. That's just something that's biological. So if these women, when these women are talking about fit, they're not looking for a fit person because they want to spend long nights reading books and discussing it together. They're looking for a fit person because of the sexual attractiveness quotient that they're also considering.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, so coming on to tomorrow. Okay, so here we go. With the statistics against them, women are motivated to want to look after themselves and make the best of what they have, while there is no incentive for men to do the same. Joe said this generation of men don't bother to make the effort to represent themselves in an attractive way, even online, or they just list what they don't want in a woman, and they say nothing about themselves because they can. And those men who do make an effort are in positions to be very choosy. Online dating coach Susie Parkus of MeetYourMatch.club observes, a man who has aged well, has a good outlook on life, a joie de vivre about him, and who has seemingly done well for himself, is very attractive to his peers. However, for the most part, he's drawn to younger, sexier, and more vibrant models. It has a lot to do with his self-perception in terms of being able to choose who he wants, who and what he wants in a partner, because he has the right to, given that he is in high demand. While good-looking men can pick and choose attractive women such as Jane effectively become victims of their drive to remain active and youthful, women in their over 45 brackets are the biggest buyers of beauty products, accounting for 58% of the market. I think we can maybe cut it off there and we can just touch on it because they seem to be switching to something else.
Yeah. Well, this is basically the point you made before about them trying to look younger. I don't know what this is about. men trying to represent themselves in an attractive way, even online. I mean, again, I don't know. That's pretty subjective, depending on what you mean. I mean, yeah, there are guys who let their weight go, who don't present themselves super well. What they want, what they don't want in a woman. Again, I've seen some of those profiles, but I don't know. But then it's like, okay, but then what do the women want? Um, the men who are in an effort, make an effort on a position to be very choosy. Again, okay, will she say anything about younger women being in a position to be choosy because they have options? I don't see anything about that. A man who has aged well, okay, again, aging is different for men. Being able to choose what he wants because he is in high demand. Well, yeah, I mean, men peak financially between what, 45, 55, something. So yeah, a guy who's taking care of himself, still looks good, is peaking financially. Yeah, he's going to have more options than a woman in the same position because he can still have children as well. And then the whole thing about beauty products, yeah, again, that just related to your first point about, um, it's like that's where all these are the women that are trying so hard to look young. So it's like, yeah, of course they're going to spend a lot of money. Yeah.
Yeah, and in addition to this, they say here the position to be choosy. Just as I mentioned, with younger women, they also have a position to be a lot more choosy. I think these women themselves, when they were younger, they were choosy in who they picked. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in this position where they're saying there's a difference. If they don't have choices now, that means it's different because they understood they had choices back then. But
Yeah.
as I'm wondering, did they also understand that men, when they were that age, had fewer choices? Does that come into their mind? It doesn't really seem to factor in there.
And and
And when they're
and
talking, go ahead.
so I was going to say, and that's one thing that I pointed out in that thread. It's like, to these women, I'm like, okay, when I was in my early 20s, I was getting ghosted, blown off, ignored, whatever, while you had multiple guys interested in you. Now you're complaining there's fewer guys interested in you. I have more women interested in me. It's like, yeah, it's like, but at the same time, was I bitter about that? Sure. But at the same time, I also realize now that I had to develop myself. I had to, get in better shape. I had to do all these other things. And it's like, and also, again, just how men age versus how women. But my whole point was that these women who are getting bought drinks, getting bought dinner, getting invited to clubs and parties for free, none of them are saying life is unfair when all that stuff is happening. It's just when those benefits disappear, then things are unfair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and here they also say that okay, they're talking about no incentive for men to do the same, but there is stuff that I've seen in, I think like in MGTOW circles and some of these Mannose Fear circles. Yes, some of the stuff is PUA, and I don't consider that to be in the same. It's Mannose Fear, but it's not MGTOW.
Yeah.
MGTOW is a different sort of thing. MGTOW is something men going their own way. And that's why I was saying some of the men just take themselves out to the dating market and they say, I've been through too much. Even if it was not a situation where the wife has cheated or done these all things, it's just like, okay, the women left me. I'm paying child support. I have a job, I have some hobbies. I'm going to do those instead of now focusing on this. I still have my kids, I still see my kids occasionally, but I'm not really going to go back into like getting a partner and all these things. It's just not something they're that into anymore. And a lot of these men are also being told you need to improve yourself. Even you look at somebody who's like a fringe kind of manosphere type of thing. I consider it to be rather fringe. Someone like a Jordan Peterson, one of his key things is someone like clean your room, where a lot of these things in men's spaces, one thing I kind of noticed in the MGTOW type of things, they're saying, okay, what you need to do is you need to stop chasing women. Stop defining your worth based off of what sort of woman is attracted to you. Instead, just focus on yourself, find some way to be financially stable, get in better shape, find actual friends out there, find things that take up your time, that make you active, that activate your almonds and things, that get your almonds like sparking and things like this. And part of the things I was trying to think, I was like, okay, I know you guys are MGTOW, you're talking about men going your own way, but don't you understand, like, you are telling men to do a lot of things that actually make them more attractive to
Yeah.
women. So
Yeah.
it's kind of in my estimation, it seems to be like, and yes, it's focusing on the men to do it for themselves, but even that independence of something is something that I think women in general are attracted to. But this whole
Yeah.
idea that people don't have incentive, men don't have incentive to improve themselves, I think they do. It's just many of those men are not really that as interested in women, especially when they get older, as women, these particular women might be.
Yeah, and the thing I was going to add too, if you watch some of the Mannose Fear stuff, including Kevin Samuels, he'll flat out tell guys, "You're fat. You need to get in shape. You need to make more money. All this." So it's like, if men are told you need to do things to be more attractive to women, both men and women are fine with that. But if women are told, hey, you need to do this to improve, oh, misogyny, small dick, whatever, it's like it just immediately gets this emotional response. And it's like, so what? Men have to be the best they can to get women. But if women can do whatever they want, men are just supposed to accept them. Like, how is that fair or right on any level?
Yeah, and the last thing I wanted to say here is they say, okay, they say here, while good-looking men can pick and choose, attractive women such as Jane effectively become the victims of their drive to remain active and youthful. So remain active and youthful. And they're talking about, I think there's a part here where it's like appear. I don't know if, let me see if it was like, um, I think I saw somewhere where it said appear youthful instead of actually being youthful. So even remain youthful, remaining youthful versus actually being youthful, because they know it's not like when it comes to age is, yeah, age is not just a number. They actually is an actual thing such as time. Like you might appear youthful, you might be using the makeup, and I think this is a good transition to the next part here. These are the things that are being done to remain youthful, even though you aren't actually youthful, because you don't need to you don't need a drive to remain youthful when you're in your 20s. When you're
Yeah.
like 18 to 26, you just are youthful. Like it's just
Yeah.
who you are. You don't really
Yeah.
have that much incentive to go out and work out and go out and do
Yeah.
these things. As you mentioned, even for men, like you just eat, you just work out. It's just your body's just working in a certain way.
Yeah.
So you don't need a drive to do that. But the drive to remain in a certain way means you aren't just that thing as is. So that's already an understanding that, hey, if somebody needs to be somebody or this has the option of being somebody who has to put drive to remain X or just is X, even they would probably pick somebody who just is X. Like they're looking for a
Yeah.
man who just does measure up versus the people who would have to try to measure up to what they are. And I think that's an issue that they have here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So we're talking about with the spending the thing. So last year, the 45 to 54 age group spent an average of £2,000, £2,238, which if my if my math is correct, that's something like $5,000. No, it's just
Yeah.
probably not. It's probably about
I think
it's
it's like
probably about
one and
two
a half.
thousand
It's
seven
like one
hundred.
and a half. It's like 1.5 times. At least it was last I
Okay,
checked.
so it's like it
Yeah.
might
So
be $3,000 around there. Three thousand
yeah.
dollars on a year on beauty products, up 4.1% over on the previous year. And this article was initially written in 2017. I think right now with the pestilence of unspoken over origin, I think with people wearing masks, maybe there was a drop in that because people didn't really have to wear much more than eyeshadow when they're on public. I don't know what's going on in this. Okay, so Jen says women see the writing on the wall and take a grip of their health and beauty, staying active, keeping abreast of current affairs, studying, keeping beautiful. I go to the gym and I go to gym classes made up mostly of women, whereas men my age just think they don't have to make the effort because there's always been dozens of younger women who will go out with them. A woman who looks great, feels good about herself, and is solvent and independent minded won't be drawn to a man who has let himself go or who may be interested in her but is far too old. For these magnificent midlife daters, so these magnificent midlife daters fall into a void. And it's not just about looks. There is a difference in mindset between the sexes too. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So again, a lot of this is kind of subjective here. Like magnificent. Well, again, are they magnificent to the men who are trying to get with them? Who feels good about herself? That's great, but people can overestimate themselves. Solvent. Again, I mean, I think most quality people are not going to date someone that's broke. I mean, that's good, but it should be a standard. Independent minded, again, what does that mean? Because like that's like sassy at the top, that's often code for difficult, but they don't want to say that. So again, some of this stuff is kind of subjective. Like a lot of these come across to me as buzzwords, appeals to emotion, like they sound nice, but it's like, what is the person actually describing? Or is it like you're just trying to rationalize, oh, I should have all these men even though I'm 48?
Yeah. Now with this one, I'm kind of wondering. They're talking about the people who are indoctrinated into thinking a certain thing. They're like, okay, you're in this age group, you're supposed to get younger women. That mindset. But what is the mindset? What is it about women that, in general, they date older men? Like, do they think that there's some patriarchy or some societal thing out there that's saying, yes, while you're younger as a woman, you should date younger men, young girls who are in your teens. Be when you get older, look forward to older men young boys in your teens, when you get older, look forward to younger men. Do they think to younger women? Do they think that's actually the programming going on, or is that just a default? Because they're already saying men who are too old. What teaches them that these men are too old? If there is programming that women should like older men, why is it that that programming doesn't continue? Okay, in their 20s, they say women just like older men because they're programmed to do that. That's why women in their 20s are dating men in their 40s. So how come that programming doesn't continue until their 40s when they're like, okay, I'm in my 40s, so I'm going to date men in my 60s? Why does that programming all of a sudden stop off? And if they say, oh, this is just the way I am, this is just the beauty products that I normally do, this is just my general regime, then why is it that there's an increase? Why does it 45 to 54? Why did they all of a sudden start spending a lot more on beauty products than they were spending when they were in the younger years? If they also haven't decided, I'm going to do more now towards this, or I need to do more. So there's just some aspects in there that are just already kind of suspicious with some of these kind of things.
Well, because it's like what comes up with careers. Like men want to go into STEM, women want to go into social sciences, and they say, "Oh, that's sexism," or "Women are conditioned to do this." Like I've had this conversation with a feminist-leaning woman I know, and I said to her, "I'm like, well, you can look at Scandinavia. It's one of the most gender egalitarian places on the planet. I mean, they've shown all these women are in government. They have paid maternity leave. They give like obviously equal access to careers, all that. They still show more men go into STEM, women go into social sciences. So it's like if women have all these options and you're making things as equal as they can, like outside of like actual socialism, it's like there's still disparities, but it's like they just can't accept that there are differences between men and women, and it's like when they're not getting these like, oh, why isn't there an even ratio of men to women and all these things? It's like they just can't accept that we didn't evolve to want the same things. It's like, it's like whatever social science, indoctrination, whatever you want to do, it's not, there's still going to be disparities.
Yep, we're a sexually dimorphic species,
Yeah.
and this is just the reality of life.
Yeah.
Okay, so as Jane will attest, middle-aged women and 50-plus men tend to be set in their ways. Less adventurous. No, okay, this middle-aged. Okay, sorry, it's not middle-aged women. As Jane will attest, middle-aged and 50-plus men tend to be set in their ways, less adventurous, and less youthful in outlook. They want someone to look after them, while their female counterparts are looking for someone to explore the world and have fun with. Jane was told by one relationship coach that women her age should go for men 15 years older, making her current dating goal a man aged 63. This is even less appealing, as if effectively, as if no, as it is effectively in a different generation, and one with with very different aspirations. I've cared for children and my parents, and I don't want to care for a man again, says Jane, summing up the attitude of many in her situation. Older men are so set in their ways, you almost feel like more like a carer than a girlfriend. Julie Werner, 46, is another frustrated midlife dater who has been single once splitting from her husband 7 years ago. I found internet dating absolutely awful, she says. I live in East Kent and it's such a small pool. There are exceptions, but on the whole, I found men who made contact were older and certainly looked older than me. Men of my target, Men of my age target younger women, and I don't fancy the older men. So it's a real problem. I've stopped looking. Having to get back to the dating market, I focused on getting myself fit again, but many men don't seem to make the effort. Online, you see selfie pictures they have taken of themselves half naked in bathrooms or slouching on sofas. Where's the effort in that? Very few men are happy to be by themselves, too. They lurch from one relationship to another, whereas middle aged women are a lot stronger and more self assured than they were in the last generation. I have two children and a career to manage. I'm forthright, and I think men find men find women like me intimidating. One strong, independent man. Why is that so hard? Okay, let's chew on that.
All right. So, I mean, again, a few different points there. So, the whole thing about, it's awful, there's small pool. Well, again, I've pointed out before, that's an issue. I mean, men deal with that too. As men get older, there are fewer and fewer single women. That's my friend's point about dating gets tougher because a lot of the good people drop out early on, men and women both. But again, running in line with what I said earlier about men want younger women. Yeah, if you're an older woman, you're going to have less to offer in terms of dating. Again, it doesn't mean you don't have things to offer. It doesn't mean you don't have a career, skills, other things. But as far as sexual market value, yeah, it's going to be lower. Again, it's like, you know, um, what else? The thing about men in selfies, I find kind of funny. I mean, I don't know. I'm to me, I find that mentality strange because I'm at the point where like I'm still trying to get in better shape, and like even if I get where I want to be, I'm not going to pose half naked, and I'm younger than these guys too. So, um, but again, it's like it goes to my first point too about like men at that older age are probably either they've decided to be bachelors or it's like they've had a family, they're divorced, and it's like they just want a companion. So yeah, they're going to want different things from a woman than if they were dating a younger woman. Because then if they're dating a younger woman, it's either they're again biology, but also if they want a family, it's like yeah, they're going to go with someone who can still have children. Yeah.
And there's a part here where they're saying that their female counterparts are looking for someone to explore the world with and have fun with. So that's a mindset that they have where they're like, this is what they're looking for, exploration. So this is something where at least this person has hinted at some of these. Now, some of the men might not just be looking for the carers. It's been mentioned one of the earlier things was so he could breed, even in
Yeah.
that crass kind of way. That is a consideration that some have. So there's
Yeah.
already going to be a vast range of men their age that are still interested in reproducing with the person that they're with. So
Yeah.
if these women are already saying, we're not even having kids anymore, we're done with that, now I want to explore the world and have fun, why can't you find other women to do this with? If sex is not a part of that quotient, why does it matter if this is a woman that you're doing it with? Why don't you just find groups of women and you do these wanderlust type of things on your own?
Yeah.
Why do you need a man for that?
Yeah.
And if a man does want that, they're saying, okay, this is a mindset that they have. Do they think younger women don't have that mindset as well? So wouldn't they understand like that the competition also wants that? There's some younger women who also want that, but there might be some younger women who want that same thing of settling down with somebody who can take care of them that these women are just not willing or able to actually do. So I don't understand why that's so difficult.
Yeah.
And another thing they said here is she says something about here. She broke up with her husband, I think 6 years ago, and then I found internet dating awful. I found she says the part where she said she decided to start getting fit. So a fancy older man. I focused on getting myself fit again. See, a thing right there. Some of the women have been fit to begin with. This is Jane. Which one was Jane in the actual images? So Jane was a person that was 48. So getting fit again. 48, if the time of this article, let's say it was before they broke up with her husband, which was 6 years before this article, so that was 46, 42. So at 42, she's saying getting fit again. So is she saying that she wasn't fit back then when she was in the relationship, or maybe she was fit and then they had a divorce and she kind of lost it a bit and then she got out of fit. But if there was that time between that time, if she's getting fit again now, why is there a time when she wasn't fit? Was that part of what led to the breakup of the relationship? Was that part of just had the struggles when she was still in her early 40s trying to actually get into the relationship? And then when she started getting fit? So just having that understanding already just kind of brings that whole idea that, okay, there is an issue here. And then the last thing with the age type of thing, I think part of this is the indoctrination part. We go through the K through 12 education system. We have a lot of talks on the schooling indoctrination complex and our problems that we have with it. But I think part of that is unnatural into our evolutionary environment where we had in groups, but we dealt with people from wide ranges. Well, your whole life you're around babies to like the oldest of the old in your area, but now you have this regimented sort of life where it's like you just happen to be born in this given area, and then you're told you're just going to spend the first 12 to 24 years of your life with people who just arbitrarily happen to be in the same age group as you do, and then you might get older and just think, okay, I got to be stuck in these age groups. These are the people that I have to choose from.
Yeah.
Whereas when it actually comes to reality, there's more vast ranges. So some of these women might be actually indoctrinated thinking, if I'm 42, I have to date somebody who's 42. That's not
Yeah.
quite the case. I kind of
No.
think like I have certain things in my mind, certain things I like talking about, certain things I like thinking about, that I find it hard to think that if I found somebody 10 years, 15 years younger than me, they would be thinking about the same sort of things. So I kind of think about that aspect. But then if I'm also considering I need somebody to actually, I'm still considering like hopefully I can be blessed enough to be a father with the partner that I'm with, that's something that you get to find a place that meets in the middle. So I think that's the idea that you have to date somebody in your age group seems to be more of an indoctrinated type thing where they would have to be
Yeah.
training people like, why don't we just be like in high school when you're only dating people in your grade? That's not how life works.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
I mean, that's yeah.
So where were we on this one? We were on like older men set in the ways. Yeah, that was the thing. Older men are set in their ways. What is that thing mentality of the things? Like, yeah, so what? What's wrong with people being set in their ways? Okay. Um, so I've had two friends. The intimidating thing. Men find women like me intimidating. They don't
That's
find
usually
you
code. That's code
intimidating.
for. That's code for I'm difficult to deal with, and I just expect men to accept it. And then my response to that is like, what do you offer that makes the attitude worth dealing with? And each woman who says that usually thinks I'm some great catch, I'm allowed to act like this, or I'm a victim, I'm oppressed, I'm allowed to act this way. And it's like, but do the men feel the same way? And if you're driving every man away, maybe it's worth re-examining.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
this whole aspect of being independent, I, I think there's a difference with independence and self-sufficiency. Like someone like a monk who's in some monastery somewhere is independent and self-sufficient, but you wouldn't expect that monk to enter a relationship with somebody because that person has decided, I'm going to be a monk, I'm going to be a hermit, I'm going to be dealing by myself. So if somebody is truly independent, then they don't need somebody. If you're truly a man, a strong woman who don't need no man, then why do you even care about a man? Go travel the world by yourself. Find friends, find other people in that kind of situation. But I think there's an there's a devaluation of reliance on somebody, on truly finding somebody that cares for you, that you care for, that you understand. Part of your value is being somebody this person needs. Part of the value of that person is that you need that person. That person is somebody who's valuable to you. These women have achieved things in workplaces. Don't they also understand in good workplace relationships, when you have a business, you find a supplier, you find certain customers that rely on you and you rely on them actually being part of your customers. That is a code, it's even codependent, but it's symbiotic, what's a good term for this? I'm trying to think. There's a C word I'm trying to think of. It's cooperative. You're cooperating with somebody. You're coexisting with somebody. That whole idea of like, oh, we're okay by ourselves. If you're okay by yourself, then why would that person want you? If that person is truly independent, why would they want you to be part of their life? But no,
Yeah.
you are somebody who you're adding something to that person's life that that person doesn't have, or that person doesn't have to do anymore.
Yeah.
And then that's how you kind of join together. And I just don't understand this whole idea. I want somebody who's independent. I want to be independent. Nah,
Yeah.
I want to depend on somebody. I want somebody who is dependable. And I want to be dependable to somebody. That's
Yeah.
what I think is stronger for a relationship. Okay, so Julie Vanderwens is 54. She was she was just 19 years old when she got married, and and was with her husband for more than 30 years before he left her 18 months ago. I was devastated, of course, but I made the decision to keep on living my life. I lost weight, started getting into sports, and now I look and feel the best I've ever been. The problem isn't men not liking me, but me not fancying them. I was someone athletic. I want someone athletic, not pot-bellied. Most of the men I meet seem really unfit. I tried dating websites, but two of the men I met there were at least 10 years older than their photo. Sometimes I think I'm never going to meet anyone. So let's discuss that real quick.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm sympathetic to having been left. I wouldn't, I don't know what went into that, but I mean, I don't think anyone should walk out on a marriage and kids. Um,
Yeah.
it's good that she's staying in shape. I mean, I do think we have obesity issues in general in this country. I do think people of all ages should work on staying in better shape, but that's another conversation. Um, what else?
But a key thing here, remember, it's said she lost weight
Yeah,
18 months ago. I lost weight, started getting into sport, and now I look and feel the best I've ever been. So
yeah,
she's saying she looks and feels the best she's ever been now. That means when she was in the relationship, that wasn't the best she's ever been. This might just be they literally mean figuratively. I'm imagining or expecting she was probably a lot fitter. She's not fitter now than when she was 19, but who knows?
yeah,
Sometimes maybe she is. But she's saying that she was unfit and not looking as good as she is now when she was married. So how come she wasn't able to do the things that she's doing now when she was married? Could that have been part of why the relationship kind of went away, because she wasn't really caring too much about their fitness? And this is the thing. You want to be attractive to the person you're with, and that person wants to be attractive to you. So there's an aspect in there where I think the people in those relationships, really caring relationships, want to improve themselves. Like Stephen has been working on working out regimen. It's not like he's reduced that now that he's found a girlfriend. If anything, it's even increased
yeah,
his reason to like, I need to get even in better shape to be
yeah.
with this amazing person in my life. So I think there is an aspect out there that's kind of interesting to see here.
Sure.
Okay, now Leslie Roberts, 52, was married in her 20s and divorced in their 30s. And I think it's kind of good that you see here these are people who actually were married. So I understand that. And this is also why I think the calculation of what are they looking for in a relationship. She did meet someone new, but they split up after a couple of years, and she's now been single for 2 years. Men my age are all up to the pipe and slippers life, and I'm not, she said. She says, when I got married, my husband was 6 years older than me, but I wouldn't take that age gap now because men age 52 to 60 are boring. They just don't have any oomph in them. Once they get past 48, they seem to turn into Victor Meldrew, yet women are making an effort and are looking great. I just decided that I wasn't going to go down without a fight. I was going gray, so I went blonde. At this stage in my life, I need someone independent. I set bar now, and I don't want someone who needs looking after unless he shows that he can look after me first. Okay.
I mean, again, it's like, yeah, you're turning gray, you're getting older. Men don't want older women. Again, same stuff I've been saying. Oh, men are boring at that age. Well, again, what do you consider boring? Yeah, a man is gonna have different, personality development. I mean, testosterone starts declining at 25, so a man at 60, he's going to be on the decline in terms of testosterone. That's going to influence personality, things like that. Again, he's going to want different things. I need someone who's independent. Well, it's like, again, what does that mean? I mean, it's like, I'd imagine most people at that age are supporting themselves. I don't think a 50, 60-year-old man is being supported by his parents.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Some of that's kind of subjective. I'm not 100% sure what she means. I feel like that's more just like a way to dismiss certain men.
Yeah, and say the needs looking after versus he can look after me first. That's something that if then there's some women in their 30s are saying I'd rather someone look after me, and that man's like, yeah, look after me, and then that woman be willing to be more of like a nursemaid-ish type of things or just go along with that life. And that's the thing. If you're looking for someone to travel around with, I think go ahead. Here, she's talking about the age thing. She's saying, okay, at 48, I was going gray, and I decided to go blonde. So again, that's some of the subterfuge out there. That's some of the hiding your actual age. I'd understand if these women are just like, I'm just my age where I am. I'm embracing myself where I am in this kind of way. The fitness, like I said, physically improving your body in natural means, those kind of physical means in that sense, there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I am a big advocate for that. Somebody with kids, without kids, not want kids, anything, just being a fit yourself for yourself is just a more positive thing. It just makes you a happier person. But
Yeah.
the fact that she's understanding she has to hide her age because she doesn't want to appear old. Yet some of her issue here is the men she's dating with are too old. We're saying like mentally old. So if she found some 70-year-old that was some 70-year-old man that was vivacious and traveling all around the world and things like this. Having some issue here with the connection. So what I was trying to say was if you found a 70-year-old that was vivacious trying to do all these things, they would not be physically measuring up to their standards. But let's say they found a 25-year-old that just wanted a homebody, would they be okay with that? Okay. So should middle-aged women just forget men about men their own age and date younger ones? Some argue that this is the way forward. Younger men are drawn to older women as much as older men are drawn to younger women. Are drawn to older women as much as older men are drawn to younger women. And this is life experience of older women, especially those who don't look their age. This is something I have experienced at firsthand, as well as being told it by younger guys when I was matchmaking. Laura Hall agrees. Tall, slim, and gorgeous, the 42-year-old redhead has been single since her divorce in 2011. This, as we said, this was in 2017, this original posting this article. Smart and sassy Laura sites full of men her age and older who just seem lazy. I prefer younger men now because they are fun, whereas older ones are boring, she says. It's not even an aesthetic thing, but a character thing. I can't stand the fact that older men really don't know how to support themselves. I think women have been raised to believe that they're winning and so I think women have been raised to believe they're winning an amazing prize to get a man who then has a sense of entitlement. So he puts on in no effort whatsoever and always thinks he can get better. Yet for many women, dating a much younger man still comes with too much baggage, and again, playing the field is not a level one. Okay, let's talk that right there.
Okay, I mean, again, so some of this, I mean, stuff I've sort of said already, but let me see what's a good point to start here. Younger men are drawn to older women. Again, Steins doesn't bear that out. I mean, yes, there are guys who are into cougars and like there's jokes about that, but I mean, that's not. It's like men in their 20s are not typically trying to get with middle-aged women on average. this is something I've experienced. Again, you're using being told by younger guys. I mean, again, is it like a handful of guys? Is it a large number? What is the sample size? When I heard that doctorate, I just think of Kevin Samuels. I'm a PhD. That sound he always plays. It's like because it's been shown that men don't value women's education in terms of sexual market value. Again, like I'm not discrediting her work. I mean, a doctorate in physics, that's a hell of an accomplishment. But I'm saying younger men are not going to want to date you because you have a PhD. That's just, nothing is showing that. Um, Women have been raised to believe they're winning an amazing prize to get a man who then has a sense of entitlement. Again, I've seen women having much higher standards than men. I'm not disputing that there are men who are picky and have an entitlement, like men incel types who want a trad wife when they have nothing to offer. Yeah, I've seen those. I'm not disputing that. But I've seen, as we discussed, I mean, obese, average, or below women who think they deserve a guy who makes six figures, is this good looking, all that. Um, Dating a younger man comes with baggage. Well, again, the man is on his way up, not a playing field. Well, it never is. Because again, like I said, I mean, when I was 20 something, I was getting ghosted. These women had advantages. Now I have more options. They have fewer. Says she is approached by women in her 20s. It's like, okay, that's an anecdote again. I'm called a cougar. Yeah, but Barbie's half their age again. Men and women want different things. So yeah, it's just a lot of false equivalencies and like reasoning from anecdotes and so many logical fallacies in here. Oh, and that was another thing on that post. I got called tone deaf or whatever, but I'm like, but some of this is just very subjective. I mean, you can feel offended by it, but it's like the facts don't change. Like, I don't have much hair. I can be told, oh, women prefer men with full heads of hair. Okay, I may feel bothered by that, but it's like it's not going to change in accordance with what I, feel. It's like,
Yeah.
uh,
There's certain preferences things where this is just who I am. Some people, some men, some women don't like Negroes. Some women have preferences of different races, different ethnicities of people.
yeah,
I'm like 5'11". Some women are like, if a woman is 5'11", chances are I'm not going to date them. I like tall women, but chances are they would like women who are tall. Men, sorry. Chances are most women like men who are taller than them. Like I would actually be amazed to date a woman who's taller than me. But that's just not something that normally happens.
yeah,
It's just not the way women are attracted. I'm not kidding. Like it's unfair. It's unfair that the women who are 6'2" are attracted to men who are 6'5". It's just what happens in this. Now this whole situation that women are drawn. What does that mean? What is drawn to older women in the same way? Like part they're talking about here is look. These older men are drawn to the younger women instead of me who is as smart or as, and also these women are looking down on these younger women. Like these women have debts. They don't have the same degrees as I do. They don't think like I do. They're just like into like these flighty type of things. They just want to take care of somebody. Why are they looking down on that when even them themselves, with many of these women, had that time when they were younger. When they were younger, they took care of a family. They took care of kids. They had a probably different kind of mindset and things. And I think that's a key thing with this one. It's a bit different from a lot of these ones we hear. Somebody's like, yeah, I've just been working on my business. I've been doing this and this. I've been doing that and now I'm ready to settle down. That's something that's a lot more common here. I'm ready to settle down after riding the cock carousel. Now those women are a whole different sort of women. These women, I think it's even more struggling for me where I'm understanding these women should understand that they had certain things as younger when they decided to pick a mate that
yeah.
older men might still have those things in interest, but they at this age, like she's 42, she wouldn't be thinking like the same expectations she had of somebody when she met somebody when she was 20. She wouldn't look for those same things. Yes, some of these people say, okay, I'm dating these younger men, but dating them. More connection issues. But what I was trying to think here was, what do they mean by dating? A lot of people think, oh, if you just go on Tinder, you're going on dates and that counts. But for some people, it has to be, oh, somebody has asked me out. This is my boyfriend. This is my girlfriend. We're exclusive or we're polyamorous. Or at least you've discussed what nature of binding relationship that you want. You're considered not single at this time. Now, I wonder how many of these younger men are actually doing that. And I was also trying to discuss this thing that you find here in Kenya down by the beach in the beach towns. There's some ladies, some women, older women often coming from Europe. They spend money on local African men who are just their beach boyfriends, their boyfriends for vacation. And these boyfriends, in many cases, in some cases, have actual family, have wives and children who know my husband is pretty much a gigolo, is pretty much a professional boyfriend. And sometimes there's intercourse, sometimes there's other things. They buy land, they buy businesses. It's pretty in depth. You can find some more information about these things if you look online. Fans type of things like Craigslist. Is it those things where there's like seeking arrangements? It's essentially a sort of a sugar baby type of thing, but
Yeah.
African men with like older women. So if these women are looking for that kind of arrangement, yes, they can find younger men who, if they're willing to, like, they're solvent, so if they're willing to pay for the trips around the world, these younger men, I'm sure they can find some younger men that are willing to take risks. But in addition to that, if there's all this baggage, if you're truly an independent, confident woman, what do you care what other people say about your relationship if
Yeah.
you're happy in your relationship? Just be happy. Yeah.
and
Okay.
and also
So this is the
and like
last.
well
This last.
what one other point I was just gonna add, it's like, don't reason from anecdotes and use fetishes. Like, I hear this when they talk about overweight women, like, oh well, this woman's heavy and gets laid or whatever, but it's like, okay, but again, she'll get guys to sleep with her, but they're not marrying her, they're not keeping her around. Oh well, I've seen younger men interested in
Yeah.
me. It's like, yeah, but like you say, is it a serious relationship, or is it the guy wants to brag that he banged a cougar, you want to brag you banged the younger guy, and you're kind of fooling around, but is this going to go anywhere long term? It's like,
Yeah. Like how many of these older women who said yes, there's attraction to it have actually met the family? Like
yeah,
there's older men in their 20s who in their 40s who might be attracted to somebody in their 30s and their mid 25s that may actually be like, yeah, I'm going to introduce you to the rest of my family and my friends and things like this. But how many of the inverses happen? Are they women who are 42 who are dating somebody who's 23 and that person who's 23 is like, yeah, come to my college basketball game. Let's watch. I don't think that happens. So and there's just the inverse out there where a lot of these women also in this age are still on that whole traditional thing where they want the man to like lead in such relationships. Now, some of these women might be willing to take the lead, and I think that some of the advice that might have been given somewhere where it says you need to actually be more active in it, and I think that's positive. But you look at websites like Bumble, like apps like Bumble, where the women are supposed to like initiate the thing where you can't actually initiate conversation with a woman unless she snipes on you and swipes on you too and matches you and then sends the first interaction. But I've seen articles where those women are saying like, okay, yes, I sent a hi, and then this person just said hi back. They didn't say anything else back. So it's a situation where these women, there's a group of these women who have accepted the initial. It's not that they've accepted to take on the traditionally masculine role, but what they've said is they just want to be a gatekeeper on which men can take on the traditional masculine role of leading and pursuing and
yeah,
instigating the rest of the relationship. And that's not, I mean, if you want to be equals, how come there's very few women who also want the actual interactions of relationships to be equal? And I'm not even advocating for that. What I'm saying is you're saying you want equality, yet you don't actually act like you do. And I'm saying there is no technical possibility, at least until we have maybe artificial wombs, to have a realistic sense of equality when you're actually talking about dating with the intent to actually reproduce and things like that.
yeah. All right.
Okay, so I think let me just go towards the end and we'll finish this off. So Jane Townsend says she's often approached by men in their 20s. The last date I went to was he was 23 and he was very interesting and articulate, and we had lots in common. But society says I shouldn't be dating men like him. I'm called a cougar. You said cougar.
Mm,
um, which makes me out to be predatory. Yet it's perfectly acceptable for men to go out with Barbies half their age. Why is she insulting the women, the younger women?
yeah,
I know from my experience of talking to women who write in for blind date now, who blind date, how many want a younger man because men of their own age just don't appeal anymore. Unless men change their attitude to dating women of a similar age to them and make more effort with their personal care, and most women accept this is unlikely, it is hard to see how the situation can change for these gorgeous women. But Joe Hemmings says that we can still take heart. Her advice is to go online frequently, make the approach, don't rule out meeting people in real life, and be as socially active as you can. Knowledge is power. So if you get the determination to take charge, she says. You've got to make the choice to be the one woman out of seven. It's tough, but possible. All right.
all right. So just a few comments. Like, is approached by men in their 20s. Okay, again, one woman anecdote. Um, Society says I shouldn't be dating men like him. I mean, date whoever you want. Again, it's like, it's unusual. I'm called a cougar again. It's like, but then again, this is like you were saying, Barbie's half their age. It's like, that's insulting. That's like, that was like that woman who in the thread said to me, "Oh, you're just attacking women, whatever." It's like, no, I'm acknowledging that women have different preferences and standards at different ages, depending, just like men do. It's like, I'm just, this is, that because that woman in that thread even said, "Oh, I hear sour grapes from you." It's like, well, what is this? You're resentful that you were young and pretty, and now you still may look good, but you're older and fewer men are interested. It's like, well, okay, it's our turn now. Sorry. Let's see what else here. Men change their attitude. Again, it's just like you're trying to re-engineer biology to fit your preferences. Um, these gorgeous women, again, your opinion, and that also gets into age. Yeah, again, you could be that one woman in seven. It's like, yeah, again, it's a whole possibilities versus probabilities. Yeah, can you? I mean, these women were married. Maybe it's not the best comparison, but I was going to say some of these women want to live that Sex in the City lifestyle and then settle down, and it's like, you know, you decided to throw away your prime years riding the cock carousel, as you yourself said, and then suddenly you're serious, and it's like the men who have their act together don't want women like that. Now, these women were married previously, but a similar point still stands. It's like you're still older, you still have had kids. It's like you're not going to have the same to offer that you did to younger women. Again, when you were younger women, it's like, sorry, but I mean, it's not going to change.
Yeah. And this is the key thing here. It's just, what would these women say to even themselves at a younger age about the dating marketplace if they themselves were dating somebody? It's like, what would they say? How come this is focusing on what men need to do? How come this is not an article talking about, okay, women in their 30s need to stop dating men in their 40s and their 50s. They need to leave those men to other women in their 40s and their 50s. They need to find women and men and women in their 30s. And another key thing is a lot of these women have kids, yet they haven't discussed if these women, if these men that they're dating with also have kids of their own. But chances are, I would not be surprised to say that they are looking for single men with no kids, because a lot of the men with kids already have their resources tied up in continuing to pay child support for those kids, because very few of them will actually have very few of them will have custody of these kids. Now, if this man is also paying for these other kids, there's a chance they won't be as solvent as you can. There's a chance they won't be able to travel around the world if they have to make sure they keep bringing in a certain amount of money in order to keep the kids in or pay alimony for a divorced wife and things like that. A lot of these women, they took divorces, but how many of these women are paying alimony? How many of these women are still paying child support outside of their regular cost to run their house? And I think you'll find a lot of these women are not doing that. Is that factored into their calculation about it? And if this was an article saying younger women in your 30s, leave this men in their 40s alone. But no, it's like, no, the women in their 30s should be allowed to pick anybody they want to date. But the men in their 40s and 50s, it's wrong for them to go for the women in the 30s, even though the women in their 30s and their 20s and things like that are willing to actually date those men. So where is the aspect of why should the men be the ones to change versus saying the women in their 30s and 40s should be changed to say no to older men? I don't know.
Yeah.
Fine.
I don't have
So
a
yeah,
whole lot
I
else.
just anything else.
No, I don't have a whole lot else to say. I mean, most of it's points I made already. So.
Yeah. So that was the article, and as I said, this is something that I'm just thinking. Yes, when Stephen did post that, as you mentioned, that was a bit of a it was a bait in the actual original comment. So he did have some men, there's some typical things saying, oh, these women are just salty, and a lot of men who commented on it who didn't seem to read the article. A lot of women who commented it who did seem to read the article who were just sending insults saying, you just see women hurt you. Oh, you see this seems like you hate women. Does it seem like I hate women, or does it actually do? Like, quote where I've actually hated women from saying this. And then there's some men who come in with the whole like, oh yeah, you're right, women, like it's horrible for men to be like this. You should never settle. And one thing that came up with the settle thing is I think settle is not a bad term. To be settled is not a bad term. In fact, somebody who's settled is somebody who in general is attractive to women and men. If you're a man and you're actually looking at somebody to be stable, to start a family with, if you're a woman, you're looking for somebody to be stable, to have a family with, that is normally a settled person. He's settled into a sort of life. He's settled into a sort of mindset. He's settled in something where you can say, I already have enough challenges in my life, enough unknowns and random things happening. But if I'm going to add this other person into my life, they are settled enough for that to be somebody I can orbit around, maybe like the planet, the Earth and the Moon. We can orbit around each other, and we can understand our general movements that we have, and then we can have this kind of unity where I can say, okay, I can factor in for this person, where I understand, where it's not just a complete random thing, like one time they're here, one time they're there, one time we're here, one. look at the relationships that are like that, and you'll see those unsettled relationships. So I think the term settle should be reclaimed to a situation where settling is a positive thing. And in that estimation, I think that's why you should also check out the other series that we're doing where we're talking about.
Yeah.
I think it's good that we did this instead of we were thinking of doing this as part of that. And like, oh, this is a much bigger type of thing. So we're taking a little aside from the settle thing, where the Marion settling for Mr. Good Enough,
Yeah.
is the name of the book. So with that
Yeah.
one, I think she's also talking about settling as a positive thing. It's not bad to be unsettled if you're looking for a certain thing. I don't know if these women are looking for somebody to settle with at this age, but finding somebody in your 20s who is there for you, who's solid for you, is not settling in a negative sense. Because, first of all, it's not like you had literal 100 people who were like, these 100 people are ready to actually marry you at this time and be with you and start a family with you. Those 100 people might be willing to sleep with you, but they're not willing to do those other positive things that you have. So that one person who actually you choose to actually do that with might be the one out of those that actually do it. There's some women out there who have hundreds of proposals, but most women don't. So don't think of settling in that kind of sense. That's my goodbye to all of this.
My stance just on settling, again, is very subjective. Like, if you're hung up on getting the 6-foot Giga Chad with the perfect body and all this and you don't get it, are you settling, or is it just what do you bring to the table? If you're an average woman and you don't get that, is that you settling, or is it just your standards are too unrealistic for what you bring to the table? It's like, if these incel types want a trad wife who looks like a supermodel and they don't get it, are they settling, or is it just they don't bring as much to offer as they think they do? Like, what are you getting in the marketplace? And if you're not getting what you feel you deserve, is the problem your standards, or you're not bringing enough to the table? And it's like, you just deciding I deserve the best. Again, it was like my first analogy of, oh, I deserve the high salary. It's like, yeah, everyone's going to pick a very high salary, but it's like, why should they pay you versus everyone else?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's it for now.
Yep.
Again, it's a good thing we did this thing. Was like, it's a good little aside. We've been doing a lot of just like the series where we talk about different things. We'll be recording. We're recording this on a Sunday. We'll be recording the next part of Marrying probably tomorrow. I don't think we'll be able to record more today. But Stephen, it's a great conversation as usual. We have that. We have other things in food, like Stephen said. We talked about Stephen has been a recent date. He took he took the missus out for a birthday dinner, so he's going to go there one more time, and we'll do a dish on dish with that as well. We have some other things on the channel. Wherever you listen to this, there's a lot of other content. I think we've talked about relationships in other sides besides the marrying him. No, maybe we haven't really talked about relationships too much, actually.
A little bit.
I have other content relationships. Yeah, go ahead.
A little bit here and there, but we didn't do any series on it.
Yeah. I think the Marry Him is the first one we've done just full-on relationships, talking about things, talking about a book. That's some of the content we have. Some of the content you have is just reading. We have a few reading. Another reading article we have, I think was a good one, was Down the Rabbit Hole, was another one where it's like a one-parter where we're talking about I think it was reporting or schools and stuff like education. We have different ones where we talk about books now, like the Marry Him. We had like cynical theories. We had one where you're reading Repressive Tolerance with Harvard Marcuse. We have another one where it's like the Ivory Tower. So there's a lot of conversation type of things. And we have another series, I Know Great People, where we're talking to people about specific things that they do and things like that. And with that I Know Great People, we want to kind of break it up. So if there's comments and thoughts y'all have in this article that we might have gotten things wrong, or you think we're being misogynist or we're missing things in a certain way, being unfair, let us know in the comments, and we might do like a follow-up with this. Or if anybody else that we know personally is in our sphere and would like to come on and maybe talk about this. This was a MANversation about like issues of females, but then like when women are talking about issues, they're also talking about what men should do. So I think it's okay to kind of give like from a male's point of view to like what's being in this. And I'm not one of the preachers who you have to live as X in order to speak about X. I think it's good to get inputs from other ones. But if you are a single woman, or if you are a married woman, especially if you're a single woman that's around this age group that you feel is like you're struggling in a position. Is this close to your story? Are you willing to talk to us about it? That would be something that I would be interested in talking and bouncing off ideas and thoughts off of you. Yeah, anything else?
That's all.
All right. So guys, gals, and everything else in between, goodbye.